tonight, how can you overcome bottlenecks hindering the prosperity of your business? Development indicators show that in order to uplift the standard of living of ordinary Ugandans, there is an urgent need to address household incomes. Now, in order to address these incomes, it is prudent to help as many Ugandans as possible start small businesses, commonly known as the small and medium enterprises, or SMEs. Given the prevailing economic situation in the country, many Ugandans still find it hard to start such businesses, largely because they lack enough money and other structural issues. But according to business development experts, some of these bottlenecks can be avoided by intending entrepreneurs if they are sensitized well enough on the strategic choices they need to make in order to succeed. For several years now, the Private Sector Foundation has been engaged in campaigns to help Ugandans achieve their business ambitions through a program known as the Business Uganda Development Scheme. However, many Ugandans are not aware of this initiative and how it can help them. In order to strengthen further the business acumen of Ugandans, this week the Private Sector Foundation will be holding the annual Small and Medium Enterprises event under the theme Optimizing Financial and Business Development Services for Business Survival and Success in Kampala. So tonight we take a look at these efforts as we seek to understand the challenges and opportunities, the quality of the Ugandan SME sector, among other issues that affect business. We'll also look at the efforts by the Private Sector Foundation and how you can benefit from them. Our guests tonight, Ms. Damali Muchivi, manages SMEs, specifically in charge of the Women in Business section at the DFCU Bank. You're most welcome, Madam Muchivi.
Thank you, Edmond.
We're also joined by Mr. John Kakonge, Head of Retail Assets at the same bank, DFCU Bank. You're most welcome, Mr. Kakonge.
Thank you, Edmond.
We're also joined by Ms. Sarah Nakibuka, Public Relations Manager at the Private Sector Foundation. You're most welcome. We expect to be joined later by Mr. Daniel Kiseka, Manager of the Business Development Scheme at the Private Sector Foundation. Sarah, can you talk to us about this annual SME event that you're planning?
Thank you very much. Good evening, listeners. Before I talk about the Small and Medium Enterprise event, I would like to just give you a brief about Private Sector Foundation. Private Sector Foundation, in brief known as PSFU, is the apex body of the private sector, the business community, the traders, the manufacturers, even the small business person out there. We are the apex body for you. So what do we do for you as private sector, and why were we formed? We were formed in 1995 basically to make sure that we become a voice for you, to take your views to the government, to the relevant officials, to make sure that whatever challenges you are facing, whichever problems you are facing as the private sector, we help you to take the issues to the government. And then the government can be able to address them. We've held forums, discussions, debates to make sure that we bring all the issues together and address them to the government. What else do we do as PSFU? We do capacity building in form of training, networking, to try to help you as a private sector person to make sure that you can do your business better. Because that is our role. That's why we are here as PSFU. What else do we do as PSFU? We are managing a number of projects, both from government and other development partners. My colleague later on will be talking about the new BADS DFID. This is for the people in northern Uganda, if I can say the PRDP region, those that were affected by the Koni War. So we have a project for them, a developmental project, to help them, to make sure that we develop that area to come to the same level like maybe the central region. So you'll be hearing from him later on. So we have managed quite a number of projects. I don't want to talk about them right now. But why are we here today? We are talking about the Small and Medium Enterprise event. 4 years back, as PSFU, we looked at the private sector and we realized that the SMEs form about 90% of the private sector in Uganda. However, they lack a lot. Information, machinery, and many sorts of things that have made them remain behind up to today. So we tried to organize small and medium enterprises. It's 4 years down the road right now. So what do we do during this time? We give the private sector or the small and medium enterprises information. We help them to network. We help them to create business linkages with other bigger, maybe associations, development partners, so that they can be able to move from the level they are to the next level. So we bring together, for example, financial institutions. Today we are here with the DFCU. We bring together insurance companies. We bring development partners to make sure that they can support the small enterprise out there, because they are facing so many challenges. When I look at the statistics, you may realize that 80% of the businesses that form today collapse before even they reach their first birthday.
80%.
80%.
In the first year, you'll see.
And 90% don't reach their 50th birthday.
80% die in the first year. 90% by the 5th year,
yes.
They're gone.
So that means we have only 10. That's the biggest challenge, and yet this is the biggest area where our businesses are.
All right.
So that means that the population here, about 3%, about 3 million people out of the 33 million people use financial services.
Yes.
3 million out of...
That's about 10%.
Yes.
Less than 10%.
It means that most of our businesses are not using financial institutions. And yet this is very key to make sure that their businesses are moving forward. So we organize this event to give information, to make sure small and medium enterprises network with others. If it's East African community, how can you work there? You know? Is Kenya going to take over and Uganda is going to be left behind? So we are going to have quite a number of sessions during this event.
Yes.
The event starts tomorrow.
Yes.
Tomorrow
Thursday,
after
Friday
Saturday.
and Saturday, yes?
Yes. So we have organized quite a number of sessions to make sure that we help you as a business person to benefit from this.
All right, we'll hear a little bit more about that, listeners. This is Spectrum on Radio 1 tonight. How can you overcome bottlenecks hindering the prosperity of your business? You'll be able to call in at some stage and ask questions or make general comments or contributions. Demali, from your desk at the DFCU Bank, managing the small and medium enterprises, what do you think ails Uganda's businesses?
Thank you, Edmond.
Go on. What's the main problem of Uganda's businesses?
Thank you, Edmond. Working with SMEs, there are a range of problems. Some come up every day, some have been in existence, but to mention some, poor record keeping.
Poor record keeping?
Very key. When you're working with SMEs, mostly when you're going to start out with them is when they come to you for financing. Now, when you get down to the record, they have very little, if any, for various reasons. When you go to visit them, you find a whole setup, a big shop with really no record, short of maybe a book. They do not bank, like Sarah said. They rarely use the bank. They'll keep the money in their
under the bed,
in their safes in their shops, or they will recycle it in the business. Now, such a record is lost. So the business is all in their head.
In the head.
So at DFCU, this is one of the things we do under financial literacy, part of the training. We tell them, use the bank. Even if you're going to use the money in the morning, bank it. Okay, create a record for it so that in case it's needed anywhere, it can be. We can access it. Yes, you can access it.
Still your money.
So many times someone will come and say, "Oh, I sell 50 million a month," or they'll give you a figure. But if you look down to record, there's nothing to show for it. So then we have to take them through what they need to be to help them to become bankable.
Right.
Okay? That's one. So in a way, if you're going to finance this business, it's
difficult to quantify.
Yes, it's difficult to quantify. Hence, it comes across as a very risky or high risk. In that way, you're going to target with a high interest rate because of the risk embedded in there. So which poses the second challenge, access to finance, but even better still, cheap finance. That's one of the reasons that the SMEs will access facilities with a high cost. Then skills gap.
Yes.
I wake up in the morning, I have this idea, I think it's a good one, I set up my office, and then I get a family member, put them at the front desk, get another one to run the shop. I've not given them the basics, because some of them, and many of them, are family businesses. So they start running the show.
Many of our SMEs are family businesses.
Yes, some have graduated, but many of them start as family businesses. Friends, family have put money together.
What percentage? Do you have an idea there?
I wouldn't come up with an exact figure, but I would say around about 90%.
All right.
Okay, 90%. The ones who've grown bigger have outlived this stage. Those are the 10% she's talking about that have moved to the next level.
Right.
So you find that this SME is operating. It started off low, but along the way the gaps begin to manifest, and it's bound to affect the business at some point. Okay, so this is also part of what we do at DFCU.
Right.
Help with capacity building. We're working with organizations like PSFU and others who help in the capacity building. Yeah.
All right. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more later in more detail about what you just told us, but specifically about this women in business. It's an intriguing thing, a section in the bank that deals with women in business. John, how significant are SMEs in an economy such as this one?
I think I'll basically give you an example. I was at the macro level. I think the United States is a $13 trillion economy.
Come again?
The United States,
yes,
is a $13 trillion economy. But 80%,
about 16 trillion actually.
About 16 trillion. 8 out of every 10 individuals formerly employed in the United States actually work for what they call small businesses, which translates to small and medium enterprises in your Ugandan setting. If you were to ask me what the percentage of people formerly employed by small and medium enterprises is in Uganda, I'll put it somewhere in the range of agriculture. Maybe 80% of the formerly employed people work for SMEs in one form or another.
In the US, it's most people are in structured employment. Here it's 80%.
80%.
In the US, I think the people in agriculture are around about 2%. Here it's 80%.
Yeah.
So that's a clear indication about low development.
Yes, an indication of low development of this. It can be taken to be an indication of our low development of our economy.
Is that a structural problem, or is it a mindset problem, or is it a historical problem where we're coming from?
I think it is. It's very largely historical. We look forward. There will be a time. I believe there will be a time when services and industry are the dominant sector of our economy. If you look at the historical trajectory of even the most developed countries, there was a time when agriculture was a dominant sector.
Yes.
So the fact that if you have to, it would not be fair to use a straight line analysis. The fact of the matter is some of these countries are way ahead of us in terms of time. They're way ahead of us in terms of their age. So as long as we maintain a particular trajectory, I believe there will be a time when agriculture will not be a significant employer, at least at the primary level.
All right. Sarah, is the general environment conducive to SMEs?
Maybe not. Because when you look at Uganda today, you find quite a number of challenges affecting the private sector, even the big enterprises. Look at the infrastructure, the roads. If somebody is to transport their onions or tomatoes, let's say, from Kabalori to Kampala or to Entebbe for export, are the roads fine? Look at the non-tariff barriers to trade. All those ones are affecting the private sector.
Language or what?
I wouldn't want
access to markets, levies, and what exactly do you mean by those NTF barriers?
Sometimes it's with the police,
asking for bribes along the way,
something like that, and then somebody's over 4 hours to make sure that they can provide something. All that creates a lot of challenge to the private sector here. The other one is already mentioned, the access to credit, because most of them don't have collateral, so somehow they face that challenge and they cannot be able to do their businesses better because they don't have enough financing for their businesses. And the other, the fundamentally is that the private sector or the small and medium enterprises, they lack information. They are not trained. They don't know what to do. When somebody starts their business, they start it and that is it. They cannot seek for any information. Even if we are here today, and then we tell the public, please come tomorrow. There's a free training. You are going to have access to, all these development partners, all these associations that can help you, to nurture you. They will not come. Somebody would rather stay to make 10,000 than to come to the event where they can have access to grants like the base DFID, so that they can be able to develop the business. The training, we don't have the capacity. Somebody doesn't do records. All these are challenges affecting the private sector in Uganda, and then we are not competitive enough. Now the ESC market is open. How are we as the Ugandan private sector? Can we really be competitive enough? Whether we have NACMAT here, and the products are there, and Ugandans have started buying the products from Kenya because they have a better price than ours.
You're talking about the Kenyan supermarket coming to Uganda and doing very well.
Yes, and Ugandans are really looking good.
We're selling Kakonge in southern Sudan. We're doing some exports.
Maybe, but I think we need to do value addition.
Kenya's big banks in that place.
So I think that the private sector in Uganda is facing quite a number of challenges. Look at the electricity. It is not available. So you barely can be able to produce your products for the whole day. You produce half a day and the other day you are seated. Meaning that you cannot be competitive enough. Those are some of the challenges. We shall be having a session with the Prime Minister tomorrow.
The Prime Minister is coming tomorrow?
Yes.
And there's no politics.
There is no politics. You will have an opportunity to discuss with him. Tell him your challenges and let's see how we can address them. We have the Ministry of Trade.
So part of this small business we will want to interface with the Prime Minister.
Of course.
If you have a shop in Galama somewhere, you can talk to the Prime Minister.
You can talk. We are there as PSFU, I told you. We are going to link you up to the big guys, so that you can be able to question them on certain things.
And the banks as well.
The banks will be there. It will be a face-to-face with the bankers. DFCU, they are here.
And as a person from Kizito and other.
Can they tell you that instead of taking a loan, can you take a bank draft? Because our people are not informed. An overdraft. So somehow, somewhere, they lose out.
All right. Edmond, can you talk to us about this women in business? We'll talk about other things later, but talk to us about this women in business. It's an intriguing thing.
Women in business.
The desk that you had at DFC.
Women in business is under the SMEs, or maybe we look after the SMEs. It's a program that is meant to advance women initiatives,
yes,
or women entrepreneurs. Now, we don't just want to lend money to this woman. We don't just want to get her business. We want to grow her. We want to nurture her to be a success story. So some of the things we do there is we have a lot of training, which is financial literacy, right from the basics, right from the record keeping I was talking about. The marketing. How do you market your product? Customer service. The whole 9 yards about your business. We work in partnership with many organizations who are the experts in this, and we are happy to foot the bill,
to teach them.
To teach them.
You take them to Imperial Rally Seminar and so on and so on.
Yes, we do that all the time for forums. We educate them. We link them to the market, okay, to development partners.
Okay. All right. I think you've given us a synopsis there. Well, we'll have to go for a break. This is Spectrum on Radio, and we'll be back, and then you'll be able to call in and ask questions. Stay with us.
Special fares to the US, London, China, and India, with extra baggage allowance on selected flights. To book your flight, contact your local travel agent or call us on 041-7800-900 or book online at qatarairways.com/UG. Qatar Airways, world's 5-star airline. Terms and conditions apply.
John, Mike, and I, we go back a bit. We knew John at the beginning, working for someone else. But he was different. He had vision, saw opportunities. he started working towards his goal, opened his own garage, and worked, learning the hard way. His reputation spread. Trust, consistency, quality. Soon people were coming to him from all parts. He made himself and his whole street prosper, and also helped friends, seeing potential in people and helping them on. But John never shouts about all his success. He's just who he is. Special.
So here's to men like John, who make a difference, who enjoy Nile Special, the rich, satisfying taste from the source. Nile Special. You've earned it.
Not for sale to persons under 18.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90 is brought to you by Stanbic Bank.
Welcome back on Spectrum. Tonight, how can you overcome bottlenecks in hindering the prosperity of your business? Our guest tonight, Ms. Danielle Muchibi, Manager SMEs in charge of the Women in Business branch at the DFCU Bank. Mr. John Kakonge, Head of Retail Assets at the DFCU Bank. Mr. Daniel Kiseka, I've now just been joined by Mr. Daniel Kiseka, Manager of the Business and Business Development Scheme at the Private Sector Foundation. You two will be able to contribute to this discussion. Mr. Kiseka, what strategic blunders do SMEs normally make? Strategic blunders.
Thank you very much. Good evening, dear listeners. Edmond, strategic blunders, especially from the perspective of SMEs, there are quite a number of them, and I want to relate to what we see on a daily basis. Someone mentioned about poor record, not having records, because that will disadvantage you in the first place. Certainly, you're looking at competition, and your quality is not up to the mark, so there's no market there for you. Then, obviously, you're looking at issues to do with credibility. Issues to do with putting enough onto the markets. I know from experience that in one of the initiatives that we funded under the World Bank, where we were encouraging different agro-processors or producers to attend trade fairs and exhibitions in Japan, for instance, they were given orders in terms of how much they could submit per month, for instance, and we were not able to fulfill those orders. So in terms of international competition, in terms of being respectful to the business setup where you don't feel your quote, that disadvantages you, or it puts a bad name to the whole institution, to the whole sector, and also throws you out of the competition. So we are talking of such kind of things that are faced by SMEs, but certainly also in terms of knowing what exactly you want or how to get where you want to get as an SME, which relates to acquisition of knowledge and expertise in different areas to be able to achieve that goal. So that is where we have issues in terms of the SMEs, and that is where, as a project, for instance, we want to see how best we can intervene by looking at business development support, skills development, and also importantly now under the funding from DFID, looking at helping people with the acquisition of technologies and importantly equipment to allow for the value addition that Sarah was talking about in the first instance.
And those in charge of orienting people, guiding them into what businesses to do. For instance, right now, people who make fruit juices have to import powder from other places. People could grow mangoes here, but nobody's telling them to grow mangoes. In the past, they used to do, government used to do it. Who's supposed to do it now?
I think it's a role both for government and also for the private sector. From the private sector angle, it's basically you need to be able to make money. Where is the money? How are you going to be able to make money? So it's important that you call out a niche from what can make money. Certainly, from what we're seeing now, and it's been about a year now with our intervention in the northern Uganda, it's not basically northern Uganda. I want to talk about the PRDP, which is 55 districts, including 7 sub-regions. That is
55 districts.
Yes.
That's half of the country.
Half of the country, and we're talking about Karamoja sub-region, Teso, Acholi, Lango, Bukedia,
the underdeveloped parts of this country.
Bunyoro.
Yes.
That is the PRDP now. So we've had interventions with people who are now putting up processing plants in terms of, doing the value addition to the fruit so that they can really get more than just the product. And as a project, we are looking at what causes the farmer to lose out in the first place, for instance. It could be related to the storage because, they have bumper harvest sometimes. And what happens is because they want to sell out so that they don't have their goods go out. I mean, their products rot away. They are forced sometimes to sell at very giveaway prices during the pumping harvest.
Theorem takes
exactly. So now, where at a project, we are realizing that we need to be able to support these people to come up with better storage facilities to be able to regulate what is put on the market. During the pumping harvest, yes, harvest that, store it, and then regulate what you put out on the market, so that at the end of the day you have some good returns on what
prices don't oscillate.
Exactly.
John, can you talk to us about who else can help you? In the past, we had cooperatives; they were phased out. Largely, there's only one in Bugisu. Who would come in? Is it the banks? Is it the PSFU? Is it government?
It's a combination of all three. It's a combination of all three. Government does have a role to play. I think Sarah raised the issue of infrastructure. There are things that, as a private sector, we cannot really do. We can't build roads, Unless, of course, we could build roads, but then we'd charge people for using them. And then the question will be, what would the point be at the end of the day? At DFCU,
yes,
not PSFU. At DFCU, I'll give you an example. We run a project with the Agricultural Business Initiative Trust. It is essentially money that is available to anyone who is interested in investing in agriculture, whether it's primary agriculture, whether it's the trading industry, whether it's agro inputs. It is available to you. You come, you can accept it's a risk sharing format we have with Abi Trust. They cover half of our risk, which means while many banks ordinarily shun financing agriculture, you could come to DFCU and at whatever stage you're involved in,
you'll fund the agriculture plan.
We'll be happy to fund it, because the Abi Trust is essentially there guaranteeing. In the event you are unable, for whatever reason, you are unable to,
they'll cover your losses.
They'll cover part of our losses,
right.
Not entire. But that doesn't mean that the businesses should come and take it
plan to fail
essentially because the risk is covered. No, but that is a facility that is available, and that is a facility that is directly geared towards agriculture. At the present, we also have a youth fund.
Yes,
that's the government. It's also a risk sharing. The three banks put up half the money, and government put up the other half. So it's about 25 billion that is available across three banks, DFCU being one of them. For youth, there are certain sectors we're looking at, and as Damali raised earlier, the point that Damali raised earlier is the issue of cheap credit. These funds are available presently at 15%.
Yes.
Which is, I think, the cheapest prime rate right now is about 20, maybe 25%. So it's 10 points below prime.
Yes.
This money is available, and it's available to businesses.
It's a subsidized loan, basically.
It's a subsidized loan, and it is available to businesses as young as 3 months. Okay. Traditional finance stays away from young venture capital or very young businesses. Right. But these are funds that are available. And like I said, it's a combination of both the private sector and the government coming together and saying, okay, we have a problem here. Can we do something about it?
All right.
Yes.
Then do you have enough colleges of business?
I would suppose so. But you see, everything is not going to be learnt in class. You have to implement.
Yes.
And we have seen that the rate of failure of these businesses Sarah talked about, they are not non-educated people. Many of them are educated. But it's different what you put in practice and what you learnt in school.
Off the chalkbook.
Yes, off the chalkbook. So it's like what they say, practice makes perfect. Okay, it even gets better if you've trained it or learnt it. Many of them, yes, learn on the job, but it helps if you have someone to hold your hand, and guide you. So yes, to an extent it does, but it's not the end.
All right, Daniel, talk to us very briefly about that. But later, I would like you to talk to us about the event that you have this starting tomorrow.
Okay.
But do you think we have colleges that are relevant?
I think as a country, we still have a long way somewhere to go. I mean, yes, we've covered some ground, but certainly we still have a lot to do in terms of actually having this. But also that is where the private sector now comes in handy, in terms of us in the private sector trying to devise methods and mechanisms to address issues related without necessarily having to rely very much on the public, on government. to do things for us, because then we get to move faster and we get to see, because in the I'm talking from using the scheme as a background, where we are supporting this kind of initiatives from the private angle, where you have consultants, private consultants, people who have acquired experience and knowledge over time, and being able to impart skills and knowledge to grow the sector in a number of ways. So very much, yes, there's a long way to go in terms of institutionalizing. You may not really have that many, but building up the capacities within the private sector itself, in terms of those who have got the experience and exposure to be able to transfer and hence help that informal sector turn into a very formal sector.
How about mentorship? Do we have mentorship systems or structures, informal or formal?
Mentorship, yes. I think we have, yes, in terms of it's a concept that is catching on, I must say, in terms of people having, or companies now developing programs to mentor
small businesses.
Exactly. You talk about to be able to grow them up, and that is the whole concept of drawing the line between someone with knowledge and someone without the knowledge, where you see that at the end of the day there are tangible results for those who have gone through that process, in terms of delivering and in terms of being sustainable over a period of in terms of a longer period of time.
How long would this mentorship last normally?
I think it depends on the skills that you want to attribute at the end of the day. There are those that would certainly take
a little bit of general blunders,
yes.
Not planning, no records keeping, and so on and so forth.
You're looking at
that strategy.
I'm looking at some of the things that we supported. You're looking at, for instance, basic business training skills, record keeping. You're looking at a 3 to 4 week kind of course that allows the basic knowledge to be imparted to those who are looking for that kind of skill or information related.
But if you enter a business that will last maybe 15 years,
yes,
for the foreseeable future, what kind of, if that's one module, for instance, how many, you need about 3 years.
You may want to phase it over that period of time, 3 months, because you want to be able to go back and see how it's working in terms of the mentorship itself. Yes.
Right. Can you talk to us about what you do in that area, mentoring these businesses?
Okay, maybe just a list of that. It works hand in hand with the others. There's the financial literacy, the mentoring, the networking.
And you do it on an ongoing basis?
Yes, we do it on an ongoing basis. Now, specific to mentoring, like you said, we have people who are grown adults in the business, and then those who are upcoming. Now, one of our linkages is with development partners or along the supply chain. The people who've gone up the supply chain, if I may give an example, people who are doing poultry, for example, there are those who just started growing the chicken. There are those who have hatcheries. There are those who are into export of eggs. There's so much. So if we can get the ones who've been in the business a long time to nurture these ones who are just coming up, to tell them, do not step here. This is a no-go area.
You're asking them to give out their business secrets. That's the mentality here.
No, incidentally, many of them are happy to do it for free. It's their way of giving back.
CSR.
Yeah, like CSR. And we appreciate all our working partners. We don't have cases where they've asked us to pay for the service. When you talk to them and say, we have a team of people we would like you to maintain this line of business or along your supply chain, they are happy to do it. Take off an hour a day, sometime a week, take them through. And in a way, they develop linkages. These become their markets.
They become their markets.
They become their customers. Yes, they become their mentor. At times it just takes you introduce them once or twice, and after that they take off. And it's proved quite successful.
Right.
And for us, we are happy because that means our customer is grown.
Are getting value. Okay, before we hear from the listeners, John, talk to us about your own feelings about mentorship. Is that something that's workable?
Mentorship is workable. It is one thing. Before, one thing I'd like to say is I have a lot of respect for a lot of these SMEs. Carrying a business in your head is not something to be laughed at.
Or to be gifted.
The entire business is in your head.
It's the head.
Okay, it can be.
And the money is under the bed.
There's that. Okay, but mentorship opens you up to other possibilities.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking from the perspective of DFCU, I think the one person was the example of I think she's Julia Dadier, the lady behind Delight Supplies.
Yeah, Juliana.
Someone was
Delight Supplies. She's got a chain of shops.
Yes, she has been
doing beauty products, I think.
No, there's people buying Cheers,
the juice,
and
right. Okay.
Yeah. She has been extremely generous with her time.
Yeah,
extremely generous with her time, and the people who have come through her hands are very, very different. Okay, a very different in their outlook, their perception on things that you've been sharpened. They've been sharpened. Structures, record keeping, finances, separating your capital from your capital from your personal capital. Everything along those lines. Okay, so mentorship is something of great value. However, it works both ways. Okay, the mentee also has to be open to new ideas.
Should be a lamb, not a goat.
Okay, follow on. There's enough to work with, but they have to also be open to the ideas that are being imparted to them. The biggest challenge, I think, the way I look at it, the biggest challenge right now we have is a lot of the younger people. Okay, I'm looking at the older people, I'm looking at the success that they have right now, and they do not see the process behind it. Okay, there's this whole get-rich-quick arrangement. I want to be a Julia in one day or 1 year.
Right.
So that the mentorship allows you to broaden the perspective, to understand the process.
Well, of course, I can tell you I've done some motivational speaking, and I'll tell you that it's possible to have an overnight success, but you need 20 years to prepare for it. Listeners, this is Spectrum Radio, and you can call in now. Our number 0414-348-111, 0312-260-390, 0312-261-390. When you call, you can tell us your name and where you are calling from. Spectrum, John, maybe you can talk to us. What's the attitude? Do people really want to be spoken to? Some people think Africans don't like to be mentored.
I do think a lot of people are open to advice.
You find that in general terms?
Yes, they are open to advice. But the advice has to come in at the level at which they understand it. Sometimes the approach is elitist, talking down at you rather than talking with you. Because a lot of people have achieved a lot of success in their own right, so it has to
the packaging is important. Let's hear from one of our callers. Spectrum, hello?
Hello?
Yes, sir, your name?
Yeah, this is Kwagarima from Kampala University.
Yes.
So what I wanted to know about this share, to throw more light about these shares of DFCU, how much and the minimum shares.
All right, we'll get the response to that question. Demal, you would like to talk about?
Thank you for that question. I didn't get his name. However, if you're interested in our shares, we have brokers or companies who are on the stock exchange where you can buy and sell these shares. If you look at the news every day, after the news, they are constantly showing the prices of the shares.
Yes.
And
news on television.
News on television. They constantly let you know what the share price is, what is selling. And I think the latest is about 1,000 shillings. And that's a big gain from where we started. The IPO was 230, so I'm sure the people who bought are laughing all the way.
So it's something that works. Talk to us about this event that you're planning at starting tomorrow. Talk to us a little bit more in detail about that.
Okay, I'll probably want to summarize what is going to happen on behalf of PSF under the funding that is available from Buzz DFID. We have a project which is funded by the UK DFID government to a tune of 13 million sterling pounds to specifically
13 million Great Britain pounds.
Yeah. To specifically look at supporting poor initiatives in the PRDP regions, the one I talked about, and we are targeting to support 3 areas. Excuse me. We are looking at skills development, we are looking at business development support, and the support of technology acquisition. And given the background to today's discussion, where financing seems to be an issue, this is an opportunity to support those who are able and willing to make a difference in their operations to attain that success that they are looking out for. These are grants monies, and we'll have a full session on this project at the SME event. which starts tomorrow.
Where is it again? In Lugogo?
Yes.
At the Wooma Showground?
Yeah.
Addressed by the Prime Minister? Talking about business?
Exactly.
And the format is there's going to be a Q&A. You know, shopkeepers can talk to the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
God may look at the king. Let's go a little bit more in detail about this plan that you have at the DFCU, the women in business, and the how you interface with them. Give us more detail about that.
In line with PSFU, we'll be showcasing tomorrow what we have available for the women in business and what we can do for them. But further on, like I said, we have the mentoring, we have the networking, we have products and services specifically to the women. We have under the products we have what we call investment clubs, and these have proved to be very successful, whereby if I can't make it on my own, we can make it as a group.
Kind of cooperatives.
Yes, but on a smaller scale.
How do you do that?
If, just to give an example, if I as Damali cannot save 1 million shillings a month, 10 friends of us, if we can save 100,000, we are able to come up with a 1 million. 1 million in 1 year is 12 million. However, 100,000 in 1 year, if I'm to save it just by myself, is 1.2, so it won't do much. Now, this 12 million can do many things for us, which one of the advantages of which is venture capital for your SMEs we're talking about, whereas the bank may not touch you because you're a startup business, your investment club, or these investment clubs are able to invest in such businesses.
Okay, go on.
Then we have the training, and very high on the radar is the financial literacy.
Financial literacy.
Yes, very, very key. And this has helped the businesses grow. You know, when you tell them the do's and the don'ts, we advise them. We have advisory services. We have an advisory desk.
Right.
In structuring the product. Someone mentioned earlier, someone might come for a loan when what actually they needed was an overdraft.
Right.
Yeah, so one of the things we also teach them is someone may want to buy a car. Yeah, I'm a bread supplier. I need not the bakery, but I need a car to help me move around. Now, instead of me pulling money out of the business, yes, it's supporting the business, but come to the bank, come to DFCU, get an auto loan, get a lease, and let your working capital.
DFCU actually does leasing.
Yes, we do leasing. We have a range of products that we can take advantage of, and one of the ways our SMEs also grow as they grow. We teach them, don't pull all your money out of your business. Let it continue making. But we have all these things. If you want to buy a house, we have mortgages. If you want to buy a car, we have leasing. Or even for equipment, if you want to buy, depending on what you want.
Printing press, factory gear.
Yes, and we're happy to be associated with some of the success stories in town. So all that part is part of the advisory. Although one of the challenges we find is that at times our SMEs are low on integrity. They do not tell you exactly what they're going to use this money for. So fund diversion is one of the biggest causes of business failure.
They present papers saying I want one thing.
I want working capital.
They go away, they buy land and those.
Exactly. You give them money for working capital, then the neighbor next door is selling a plot of land at a very good price. They divert the money immediately. The money that is in the business is not sufficient to run the business, whereas they can actually come, have the working capital and still have the land, So those are some of the things, the advisory services we advise them. We have business plans, templates.
Or you provide business plan templates?
Yes,
because that's a big challenge.
Yes, we provide them. To give them guidelines. What should you be looking out for? Cash flow statements. Drawing them up yourself. So we are happy to share these with our SMEs or our women in business. And like John said, it's a two-way. We may be able to do it, but if you don't respond, then it's a futile effort.
Do people actually respond?
Yes, they do.
Really?
We have a big percentage, but there are also those that will not.
How successful is that women in business desk so far?
Oh, very successful.
How old is it?
We started 2007 with the help of
That's 5 years. That's quite some time.
Yes, IFC.
The World Bank Lending.
The World Bank Lending. They are very supportive. They give us lines of funding to lend to our women. Also, what I didn't mention, if you're a woman in business and you come to borrow, you're borrowing at a rate cheaper than the market.
Who pays the balance?
What balance?
Well,
because I said they are, yes, not the loan, the interest rate.
The interest rate.
The interest
At what level, for instance?
For example, if you borrow at less than best, what we call the minimum lending
How many
rate,
percentage points?
2 points.
Who covers that loss?
That
deficit.
DFCU, it's not really a loss, but
it's a promotion.
Factor. Yes.
Slash the marketing budget.
Yes.
John, can you talk to us about your department, the retail assets? How does it work, and how can people walk into your place and do business with you, DFCU?
Retail assets right now is broadly split into women in business, which is run largely by Damari. Then there's core SME, which is a business, what we call normal or small business lending, generic business lending. Then there's also the scheme loans and to some degree personal loans.
Scheme loans?
Scheme loans is when we approach corporate entities and offer them essentially group loans. We fix a rate, it's a pre-booked rate, specifically, pre-booked rate on the various lending products, whether it's home loans, auto loans, land loans, or salary loans. And we try as much as possible, especially at in a nutshell, it should be workplace banking.
Workplace banking?
Yes, workplace banking.
All right, Daniel, can you talk to us about this BADS program and the grant support and some of those issues in there?
Thank you very much, Edmond. The BADS grant system is as old as PSF itself, but the design has been that it's a reimbursable grant, which would mean in essence that the clients who undertake the activity contribute 100%, but then get reimbursed 50% of the total cost.
Give us a case study.
For instance, a client may come in to do a business plan.
And what is it doing?
At a cost. So probably they want to do, I'll take a feasibility study in this case. Someone wants to set up an industry up in the north. They don't know how much it's going to really cost them. They want to be sure that it's going to be viable in the long run and things like that. They need a document to guide them. To be able to do that, they don't have the expertise themselves. So they look out in the private sector for those who have the qualifications to draw up that feasibility study. It would, depending on the size of the investment, it could go to anything between 10 to 30 million, for instance.
Dollars?
No, shillings. So, in that case, the project would agree in principle to finance that, to give them a reimbursement on that, undertaking that activity, but it comes as a reimbursable, which would mean that if it's 30 million, we'll reimburse up to 15 million on completion of that activity.
And that's a grant. They don't pay that.
No, they don't have to pay that. It's a grant.
What's the aim? Capacity building.
Exactly. But we now, under the BADS defeat, which is a totally different venture, we are looking at supporting all entities because of the vulnerability of the clientele we are looking at. We are saying that we should be, as a scheme, able to support 100% of business development services, including the provision of, the doing of business plans, diagnostic studies, standards and certifications processes, which would mean that in this case the client would only come up with the need, and then we'll be able to contribute up to 100% to undertaking that activity.
All right,
as a grant.
Thank you very much. And of course, you used to have a grant that gave that the ceiling was $100,000 in the
yes, this time around the ceilings are the equivalent of about 250,000 sterling pounds, which is close to 1 billion shillings.
Wow, that's
per entity.
About 800 million Uganda shillings. We have to go. Thank you very much, dear guest, Miss Damari Mchibi, Manager SME, in charge of the desks, the Women in Business desk at DFCU, the DFCU Bank. All right, Sarah would like to say something very, very quickly before we go out of this place. The Prime Minister tomorrow gone.
Are you a business person? Are you here or you are in northern Uganda? Do you want to benefit from the grants that we have as PSFU? Come tomorrow, we shall give you more information. We have the oil now, and people don't know how to benefit from the oil sector. It's only the international companies that will benefit. That's what we think. But we have brought for you tallow oil. Come and question them. Come and find out how a small enterprise here can benefit from them.
And it begins to flow later this
year. The event is tomorrow at Lugogo Showgrounds, starting at 8 o'clock until
8
Saturday.
o'clock, all day.
Please don't miss.
Thank you very much.
Free.
We have to go. Sarah Nakibuka, Public Relations Manager of the Private Sector Foundation. She could sing a song about that. Thank you very much for coming to Spectrum. Mr. Daniel Kiseka, Manager of the Business Development Scheme at the Private Sector Foundation. Mr. John Kakonge, Head Retail Assets at DFCU Bank. And Ms. Damari Michi, Manager SME at the DFCU Bank. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond Kizito. Spectrum will be back tomorrow. Up next is the news in English.
Promotion kutoka MTN. We 10 million shillings